My name is Jacob Walton, and I'm a sports information graduate assistant at the University of Indianapolis. I'm also a public relations master's student at the same institution. I graduated from UIndy in 2022 with my undergraduate degree in communication with a concentration in journalism, having worked at the school paper, The Reflector, for 4 years. Throughout the years at The Reflector, I worked as a sports editor, photo editor, and eventually editor-in-chief my senior year. I'd kind of learned throughout the years what sports information was, but I wasn't really familiar full on. But it was late my sophomore year that I found out what sports information truly was. And that's a lot thanks to Cody Wainscott, our assistant sports information director at the time. It was at a basketball game on November 17th, 2019, where I took a picture of this dunk by Kendrick Choa. Cody walks over to me and asks, "Did you get that?" I gladly shared the photos with him, and it was posted to the UIndy athletic social media channels. That was an honor for me at the time, but it was only the beginning. I continued to take pictures for him and the rest of the department that year, but Cody ended up leaving early in 2021 for the GLVC, leaving the department shorthanded as COVID-19 hit and everything moved to the spring. Knowing our head SID, Ryan Thorpe, and the rest of his department needed help, I offered to step up and help than more than just a photographer. That spring, I ended up taking tennis as a sports information director in my junior year. I still remember that meeting with the tennis coach, Malik Tabay. He was so excited to get working. He was so excited to meet his new SID. And I remember when the meeting was coming to a close, he asks Ryan who was going to be covering his sport. And my boss leans forward and points to me and says, "Actually, it's going to be the undergrad." And to say Malik's disappointment was evident would be an understatement. But I like to think I exceeded his expectations that year. But it was more than just exceeding expectations. That year is when I fell in love with sports information. Taking pictures, taking videos with that team all season, learning about the players, talking with the coaches, finding in love in a sport that I had very little experience with prior. I felt personally invested in UIndy tennis. I wanted that group of kids to succeed as much as I did the professional sports I follow. My senior year, I moved on from tennis and moved on to cross country and track and field. Continuing my tradition at this point of learning about sports I was hilariously unfamiliar with. But that was what I loved about sports information. The learning of the kids that had dedicated their entire life to their sport. I got to learn what a 5K time was good for a female at D2. I got to learn about the technique of a high jumper and how a tiny misstep can ruin an attempt. I got to learn how much a thrower has to balance the finesse and strength to successfully complete their attempt. Eventually, midway through my senior year, I was offered the sports information graduate assistantship that I now hold. That was a position I had coveted for a long time. Seeing the GAs and all the work they got to do while also being able to further their education was something that I had so wanted to do. But even before I took on that full-time role, I got an opportunity that many SIDs don't get to ever have, and if they do, it's very late in their career. I was able to cover a national championship for the school I love. I, alongside assistant SID Elizabeth Zinga, traveled to St. Charles with the UIndy Women's Lacrosse for both the semifinal and national finals. I was able to experience UIndy win the national championship. That moment where I was on the field taking pictures of a team that I had followed all season, seeing them accomplish everything I knew they could. That was, for me, when I knew. That is when I knew sports information was for me. Now, nearing the end of my first semester as a sports information director and a sports information graduate assistant, I've learned about what sports information is to me. It is about passion for these student athletes. To learn about their stories coming from all across the United States to Indianapolis and to see their journeys, their struggles, their triumphs, it's amazing. It is about the joy and excitement for the sport, not only in the athletes, but in the coaches and the support staff. There's so much work that goes into what you see on the field or on the court or in the pool. And seeing all that come together and seeing these student athletes truly happy and excited, seeing a basketball player dunk on somebody, get dapped up by their teammates, yell, it's what I love. It's emotion, it's story. But at the end of the day, it's also about growth. Not only in yourself as a sports information director through the years, but really in the athletes you cover. You see them come in as plucky little freshmen who come from Oklahoma, Kansas, Tennessee, Indianapolis. They come from everywhere, but they're all Greyhounds. They're all student athletes together. And you get to see them grow for 4, 5, 6, 7, thanks COVID, years. And you really get to see them turn from that scared little freshman into young adults that are confident, that are strong. And it's amazing to see. It is about grit and the perseverance of an athlete throughout the tribulations of a season. My first full-time sport as a graduate assistant was women's soccer. And women's soccer had graduated a large senior class that had led that team to the playoffs for many years. And they were young. And the expectations were not high. But they continued to fight game after game. And they did not have the results they wanted. But they persevered. They fought. They learned. And it was so awesome to see that as a first-year GA. But at the end of the day, it's about having fun. We're working in sports. This is a dream that so many people have. I get asked as I walk down the hallways of Nickerson Hall, "How are you doing?" And I always answer the same exact way. Living the dream.